It's that time. And this week, I want to give a special shout out to everyone's favorite.
We interrupt this message to bring you a LEGO community public service announcement.
Yo! This is me!
All citizens, please be advised and keep your eyes peeled for this fabricated American. Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
This is not a paid advertisement for the Cali Brick Link, but Mr. Sampson, I see you.
Subject matter.
I did. I had it off. Yeah, sorry.
Alright. 5, 4, 3. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 86 of Cali Brick Click, almost to 90. And remember, before we get into any of the introductions, you can find this episode and all previous episodes, not only on YouTube, but anywhere you can find your podcast, Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, wherever. But like always, we got Ninja.
Yeah.
Claire, the Plastic Architect.
Hello.
And this week, we have a special guest from the Instagram world. Sorry, I'm also sucking on a lifesaver, well, cough drop or whatever. So I'm slurring my words a little bit. Thomas or MinimalBricks, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
Oh man, it's going great. I'm so it's just it's great to be here. It's awesome.
So we met, at least Claire and I met you at Brick World Chicago just recently, which was pretty fun because we got to see totally different platforms all intermingle in one area. It's like watching 2 or 3 different school cliques like being forced to meet in the gym and interact.
The Lego amalgamation.
Right. I thought it was fun. So we got to actually sit down and talk with Thomas and, got to know a few things. And he seems like a pretty good dude. So I'm excited to have him on the show. So welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
So before we get into him in a little bit, how's everybody doing?
Great. Super. I'm really excited for the train.
Yeah, you're about to leave, aren't you?
I am. Yep. We're gonna go on a little trip. So that's exciting.
I'm excited to hear what happens to that. Ninja, you good?
Well, the party just started over here.
The lights just turned on.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I was getting them turned on, but I mean,
we just hit record and you weren't even ready yet. You should have said something, man.
Oh no, we're good. We gotta keep them guessing to see what's happening next.
I guess. As far as Lego is concerned, anything like that comes to mind except for the new Fast and the Furious leak?
Alleged. I don't know. I just barely heard about that.
It's MinimalBricks, so I'm excited for it. It's supposed to be a Nissan Skyline from Fast and Furious 2. Fast and Furious 2. Too Fast and Furious. There we go. Yeah. Wow, we're definitely aging ourselves.
I wonder if they're gonna do one from each movie.
That would be cool, but I feel like the newer movies, they're not as legendary as the original. I think up to 4 it'll start being like a little much. Like they can probably do something with Tokyo Drift with the Evo, but like after that, it's like, what's next?
It's all downhill from there, just like the movies,
exactly.
Yeah.
They just need to keep it, as long as they keep the cars within the first 3 movies, it'll be cool. But supposedly Brian's car is next. That means we get a Paul Walker fig.
Sheesh. No comment.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we're gonna stay hopeful.
Yeah. I mean, they have a partnership with Fast and the Furious, or was it Universal? So like, why not?
I mean, they're finally utilizing it. You see, we got Dom's Charger, so we'll see what goes.
With Dom's Charger, it was a given because they already had a license for him, or at least the Charger itself with the Technic set. So that was a very clean, easy speed champion. That was, and I threw mine off the roof. Sorry, Ninja, if you saw that.
Cold-blooded.
I wanted to see if they actually fly, like in the movies.
Did it? Oh, that's right.
Right? After 5, all the cars fly in every single movie, or like they fall elegantly. I guess you would
falling
say.
in style.
It was a bit. It was a bit cheesy, Shy. It was a bit.
Oh, that was the point. It was supposed
to be Instagram cringe. I'm gonna say.
That was perfect. So the thing with that is like I'm testing a few things and I learned a lot with how that works. That's
the route you want to take?
I don't know yet. I don't think so. I just wanted to see like how performance would be analytically if I were to do one way and do it a different way. So the first way I did it without the words and just kind of left it as it was. Obviously, I'm not using it as like the thumbnail for it was just a traditional like Instagram feed, like not feed, like the grid, but like so you would have to like be on reels to be able to see it, how that would perform by itself without the words. On YouTube, it shot up like how they're normally performing, which is very interesting on YouTube because now.
Posted it as a short on YouTube.
Yeah, I did on short. Yeah, I did on short YouTube, and it performed like when it was on the shelf. It did really well for like a second. And what's interesting about that now is like YouTube straight up came out like one of their algorithm head manager or whatever for YouTube like straight up said that there were two algorithms for shorts and normal video content, and then he acknowledged the fact that there's no bridge in between them. And it's a problem that they're currently fixing, and all the channels are pretty much said they figure something out in beta. So it's interesting to see how that all plays out. So I can see that anybody who posts a short, they put it on the shelf for like 10 seconds and then it dies. So yeah, like not literally 10 seconds, maybe like a couple minutes, and then it gets off the shelf. So it's very interesting to watch, and that's I'm kind of playing with it to see what happens. And yeah, I'm learning a few things. So it's pretty cool. Got into a little bit of content creator talk, a little bit. Anyways, so we have Thomas. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Thomas. I'm actually found on Instagram. MinimalBricks. I've only been building with Lego since January of 2021, so I'm actually fairly new to Lego mock building and set collecting. After getting out of my dark ages, probably like 2 decades after like I left them. But a lot of my content is just really focused on how we relate to Lego and how it pertains to our mental health. How do we deal with things like imposter syndrome with content creation, how to deal with the fear of missing out, and also something that I've also been talking about a little bit more is just overall just kindness when it comes to reviewing sets and how we can make sure that we review and share our thoughts on what we have to say in just an intentional manner. So I just really just have my account because I really just want to share just my own personal perspective. Anything else you guys want to know about me, or
why Lego?
Why Lego? That's a great thing. So for me, it really just started as a way for me to just focus more on my mental health. I'm back on this in 2021, just getting out of a year where I felt that everything was out of control. I also have OCD. So I just felt that my life was just like just spiraling after a year of being like a father. So my daughter was born in February of 2020 before the world closed. And I was just at home and I just had to deal with things just by just cleaning the house and trying to pick up other just hobbies and working out. But I bought the International Space Station on a whim just in January of 2021, just in Target. And then I bought the Lunar Lander, and then I rebought the Saturn rocket. And then I just went down the rabbit hole of just buying more and more. And I got into mock building in April. And it was really just a way for me to find a sense of control in a world that I felt was just around me. I just wasn't able to do a lot with at that time. So it really became a way for me to focus a lot more on me, which I wasn't necessarily able to do a whole lot in 2020 with being a new father. It gave me an opportunity to find a lot of self-care and self-love, and to be okay with saying I can buy this, because I'm a minimalist in my life and everything else. Like I have 5 of the same dress shirt that I wear to work every single day. I have the same just color t-shirt tones. My home is super just simple, and then you walk into my Lego room and you're just like, you are not a minimalist. But so it's really the one part of my life where I've given myself latitude to just really just be the source of my self care. So that's why I got into Lego.
Interesting.
Is there a reason why you started with space?
Oh yeah, so I'm definitely just a Trekkie. my whole life. I've also really been into Star Wars, but I just really feel that space and just the sky, just in general, has a constant state of wonder. There's a constant state of just like peering into the future, what is out there. And I also feel that we can learn a lot about ourselves looking at space. I also love to look at this evolutionary biology and how it relates to how we understand life. So I love to look at Earth, but I also love to look at space because it gives us a sense of wonder. And also just in Star Trek, you see the future where there's no more hunger and greed, and everyone just living in harmony with one another here on Earth. And space is just where I see a lot of just optimism. I see it really as just a way for me to see that there is hope. That's why I love space.
I was going to say Star Trek and Star Wars. There's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, but there's also like Star Trek in particularly. There's a lot of stories of and a lot of allegories used to describe a lot of inclusion, a lot of justice is a theme in Star Trek a lot, and I also try to bring those themes into some of my mocks as well. Equality and those themes and things that I'm also passionate about.
So we're gonna get into your mocking a little bit, but like, what brought you to like the social media life of Lego Insta?
So I really just wanted to share. I was buying sets. I'm like, oh hey, I just want to go ahead and take pictures of them. But I started to get heavily into mock building in April with some habitat challenges with Brick Fam builds. But I actually built my first mock, I believe it was in February. It was just a little vignette of Luke discharging snow troopers. It's all the way at the bottom of my Instagram feed. I'm not going to go through all my posts to get to it right now. And it was just a super small thing. And I realized then that, hey, I really didn't need a whole lot of bricks to do this. Everything I used literally came from the pad wall. I really need a whole lot of extra, and I was very, very proud of that build. Like, I still think it's one of the coolest things I've ever built because I hardly had anything, and I was still able to build it. And then with Instagram, I went from moving from posting sets, and I said, well, there's already a lot of people doing that really, really well, and I didn't want to take away from what was already being done well. So on Instagram, I said, well, I'm going to take a shift and focus more on mock building and also focus more on what kind of message am I able to share that would add value to a community that its basis is in consumerism, which I have no problem with consuming, obviously. I mean, like we see behind me, the stuff I have behind me is not cheap. But I enjoy it. It's still part of what I do. It's a part of my life. And when it comes to Instagram, just in general, I just know that as I began to post about not feeling the need to buy things on day one or not feeling that you have to keep up with everyone. At first I thought this isn't going to be accepted. I'm just going to share my thoughts. And I got messages and comments from people who told me, they said, well, hey, I just want to let you know that you make me feel like I have a place here on Instagram because I can't afford every single big set that comes out. My budget is super small. I'm not able to afford, the Millennium Falcon, the UCS one, or I'm not able to afford the smaller Millennium Falcon. They said, but you help me see that I can still belong in this community and create and make reels and be a part of it. And I can mock and build super small things and still feel like I have a place. And that's really just why I began to actively engage in my reels and in my carousels of how can I just be, it's a voice of encouragement, not for everyone, because like our content's never going to be for everyone. I don't want it to be for everyone. I know that I have a niche within a niche, is what I said. And my overall this focus is just helping make sure that people feel this included, regardless of where they are financially or what size their room is, or if they have a Lego room. Not everyone's able to have a Lego room, and that can kind of stifle the person's creativity too. They think, well, I don't have a Lego room. I can't do a YouTube video because I have to do it in my living room because my room is too small. Or so I've heard things like that. So that's why I have the approach that I do, because I truly want everyone to feel that they have a place and that they don't need to fit into a mold, but they can break out of their own shell and just do what works best for them.
So I said this before, like, comparison is the destroyer of enjoyment, because you start comparing your stuff to other people and like, I can't do what they have or what they do. I don't have all those bricks, but like you just need creativity, honestly. Like you just need a pile of bricks and start building something.
One thing that I found also, thank you, I found also is sometimes my consumption actually stifled my creativity, because I would be so focused on looking at Bricklink for the next piece, or looking at the pab wall. I remember I used to drive out after work. There was a point every single day to see if they updated the pab wall.
It's dangerous.
And yeah, I have a whole stack of pab cups. This is not to talk about to be against pab cups, but I would add an hour to my day driving to the Lego store to buy more bricks. I lost an hour of building because I decided to drive to the Lego store when I could have used that time to go home and build. So sometimes that consumption can create comparison, but it can also take away valuable time that we have in a day to just create, whether it's a mock or a reel or a YouTube video.
Right. It's anything. Yeah.
So building off of a pab wall, and you kind of mentioned a little bit, I think it does give you limitations as far as what you can do, but it also makes you think really critically about what you can make. So it's kind of like what Lego designers kind of go through. And it stems off of like the whole, you just kind of mentioned like 3 different things into this little snippet that you brought up earlier, like before we even started, was with how Lego designers take stuff to heart from when we as a community criticize. Do you want to?
Yeah. So I've had an opportunity in my very, very short time to speak with and become friends with people who were on Lego Masters and people who work for Lego as a designer. Very, very limited in terms of the designer, more so with Lego Masters, but they know designers who work for Lego. One of the Lego Masters is actually a Lego designer now, Boone. And I've had a chance to talk to him, very, very little. But they work with more limitations than actually mock builders do in a lot of these cases, because Lego isn't able just to pump out and just like injection mold whatever piece designers want. They have to plan over a period of a year or two on what pieces will even be available and what just color. That's my understanding of what Lego has to do. And they're also giving us like a limited budget. So it takes a lot of time for these sets to be designed. And sometimes a piece will be available that round, for example. And like we can actually see that in the sets that we get, like every year, we'll see a lot of repeat colors and repeat pieces that are used of a certain mold, because they had to use that pigment. That's my understanding of it, and I'm open to being corrected about that. But a lot of these set designers really do take it to heart when there's a lot of heavy criticism in the community. We actually just had an amazing Instagram video by the set designer of the Hogwarts Express, who posted a video how it was Marcos Besa, I believe, about how he really took it to heart when he got a lot of negative feedback, which really wasn't feedback; it was just criticism of how people felt about the set. And an example I used in my Instagram story, which probably came across as kind of tongue in cheek, was we wouldn't let a freshman critique a PhD candidate's work. Like we wouldn't expect them to give like an honest critique of it. There's a certain level of.
I think that's not the same.
Not the same. Okay, cool. Yeah.
No. So design is like a weird thing, right? It's like you're trained to put your work out there for it to be critiqued. That's quite literally what it is that you're doing. You're creating like a public thing, right? You're creating a building like what I do, or you're creating like a product, which is what the Lego designers do. If you're a chef, you're creating something that people are going to consume and pay money for. And as far as like in an education environment, yeah, you don't have like a freshman coming in. You actually might, because people want other perspectives of other people. And it's almost hypocritical to say that like, to be elitist about who should be allowed to critique on things as well. Just devil's advocate here. It's like, it's one thing to be like, we're inclusive, but like, we don't want certain people to critique. And then a second thing is that the final product is created for the consumer. It's a consumer product.
Yeah.
And as your job, yeah, you will take some things personally, but it is also part of your job to not take things personally. And it is not the emotional or the responsibility of the consumer to take into account the emotional stability of the creator. That it's not, no one, your emotions are nobody else's responsibility. And I think that's my fundamental belief, and people might disagree with that. But I just don't think that when you're making a consumer product, you need to be able to receive that feedback. And whether that feedback is articulated like a child, like writing like with crayons with their toes because they are like illiterate or don't know how to speak the language, or quite fundamentally are just doing it for clickbait, that's not on you. That's not your problem. Like the set was priced a certain way. You're not you're the designer. You're not the person like pricing these things. If you got critiqued by like, for this specific example, by like train people, you weren't creating a product for the train community. You're creating a product for the Harry Potter community. Like, right. And when you're going to put something big out there that's got a massive price tag, the more critique is going to come. It's just like being a content creator. The bigger you get, the more critique you're going to get. Right. And so I know people are like, well, it's not good enough to just be like, it is what it is, just deal with it. And that's not what I'm saying at all. When you're creating a public facing product, the purpose of your job is to create a public facing product. It is not for the public to give you a medal. I think that's really important to remind yourself that and not take it personally. Okay. Sorry. I feel really strongly about this because I've received a lot of critique over my whole life over so many different things, from family to professionalism from myself. And it is a constant battle. And like, I want to advocate for that battle, and that needs to constantly be done. And it's not anyone else's fault other than my own responsibility to take care of that. But anyway.
No. Again,
that's my soapbox.
No. Again, I think that's totally fair. So would you say then it could come down to more of semantics of a difference between criticism and feedback? Because I think that there's a big difference between a person just providing just like blatant words of just being rude. Like I'm not just like I am talking more about the approach. So you're right. So maybe the analogy, and like I will give you that the analogy I gave is probably not like appropriate, but maybe I'm talking about how the difference between this criticism and feedback is what I see is what I have seen is just blatant rude. I don't
know. I totally get it. I've seen it as well. So
that's probably more what I'm trying to speak to.
No, and I totally agree with you. But I think the problem is like usually the person who's being rude is not going to be able to take that feedback or be able to absorb the fact that they're rude. So it's like, it's kind of like hitting a brick wall. And then people are going to be like, well, I have, my freedom of speech and I can articulate myself the way that I want. And that's the problem with having a public face. That's the problem with doing social media. That's the problem with doing a public product, right? Or doing whatever it is. If you want to exist in your silo of higher education or only design things for a tiny group of people or be a mock builder and only show it to 3 people, you know what I mean? If you're going to do those things, by the way, at conventions, people say some really serious, nasty stuff about people's stuff, like mocks. And I've heard it. And it is great because like people should be allowed to say whatever they want and it doesn't matter. It's just like, it is what it is. You don't have to say it to people's face, like whatever, if you don't want to hurt anybody, but like you should be able to have your opinions of these things, and like you should be able to discuss it with your friends and with your family and with other creators. And that's fine. Like we want to live in that universe where we can talk and freely about these things. But I agree with you that there's like a hurtful way of doing it. But
I feel like that's a lot of trolls also though on social media.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? Like no one who's doing that is gonna want to hear that they're not doing it well. Like I don't know what the solution is for people to like articulate better. It's like you're not gonna I don't know how you change that,
Well, and I suppose it's not so much. So this is how I would probably just approach that. Is like you're right. Like I can't change what an adult like is choosing to do, but I think that there is a level of responsibility that other adults have to present their words and present what they say in a manner that shows a level of respect for this creator just in general. Right. That is what I'm trying to say, is that you're right. Like I'm not going to be able to affect what a troll does or what an individual decides to say, but I'm of the impression, though, that there are a lot of teenagers and children who are seeing the comments and seeing what other content creators are saying and the way that they're just approaching their feedback, which I would probably say is more of just blatant criticism sometimes, that I just think that kind of behavior should be called out and call a spade, because if it's not something that we would want to see continue in like our content spaces, I think there is a level of value in trying to point out an issue with it and not just letting it stand. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I get that. And I think that's like a bigger issue that we have and like a general approach that people are having in terms of like, see something wrong, like you say something and you call it out. The thing is like it's actually, unfortunately, in a lot of different scenarios, it's doing more harm than good. Mm-hmm. And it's not working. Like whatever these movements that we have, like I think we were making like micro movements and it's not happening. And unfortunately, the system that we still live in, it's harmful. Like you will hurt yourself by calling it out. And it's fine if that's like that's like the platform that you want to take and the soapbox that you want to have. But as long as like, that people, you might call out 100 people and only one person can hear. And I just don't think that I think there's almost something, you have too much, not you, but like the one who feels that they can change, somebody else has like too much either faith in humanity, disillusion in their words, and people are not willing to listen unless they're willing to listen. You know what I mean? Like it's like people don't go to the internet to like become better people. Like that's not happening right now. I mean, there's like a section of it that is. There's people who go to YouTube, they don't subscribe to anybody. They're like, how do I, sear a steak? Or people who are like, oh, how do I raise my like 25 children? And like whatever, and seek like a community for that. But like with
25 children
or whatever, it's like that's
it's a thing.
It's like a trending thing now. It's like me and my 12 kids and going to the grocery store for that, and it's just like weird shopping hauls and stuff. But whatever. I don't know. It's like maybe I'm too cynical and I'm too pessimistic and I'm too glass half empty. But like I've just always. Maybe it's also me being selfish and being like, maybe it's just like easier to be quiet because I've been really loud in the past, like even in elementary school or like even in work environments. And I've like spoken out for other people because like I felt financially stable. So like I didn't have the fear of like talking up against my managers. And it just shot myself in the foot and nothing beneficial ever happened. Like,
Hey, hold on. Being loud is how we discovered you.
no, I wasn't loud. I just like
In the text of which you showed up into this space, it looked like you were loud and made us notice you.
Was it
So
a
be
yes
proud of
Yeah,
that.
all
a little
caps?
bit.
yeah, but you can argue that this wasn't a good idea. You know,
But look what you have. You're here.
conversation that's difficult. No. I'm joking. No. I don't know. Like, I'm really not trying to like, you know, poo-poo on your parade, but it's just like I have such a hard time believing that like people want to listen. And I think your space in the internet is so fundamentally important because I think maximalism is like problematic. Like overspending is a big problem. I think it like you have to exist. You know what I mean? Like there has to be I hate using this, a safe space, because it's so idiotic that we have to use it in terms of this. But like I like there has to be a safe space for people to not be inundated with hauls or whatnot, and also aesthetically, like for my eyes to rest and see some blank space. Like it's nice seeing some white, you know, like on the back of your wall. Yeah, Shy's place gives me a headache, you know. But the thing is like that has to exist. It's like it has to be okay to be like just buy what you want. And I know there's like there are trends obviously in like different consumer bubbles. Like even in the cosmetic industry, there was a time where it was like the anti-hauls were like the big thing, right? It goes kind of like back and forth. But as far as like not critiquing, as far as like trying to have people like, I don't know, I'm like stumbling over my words. Shy's probably going to cut this out, but like my point is, I just have a hard time believing that people are going to change, or that like someone's going to be like, that sucks, and like they're not going to, like, it just looks like a giant turd. Like that's never going to go away.
Yeah, see, that's the trolling, I think.
So sorry, and I'm so sorry if I just cut you off. I wasn't trying to. So like, let me give a little bit more about my background. This might help. So I actually used to be a youth pastor. So a lot of my work was working with youth in the early part of my 20s. That's why I went to school. And we also talked a little bit about my love for the Star Trek and the hope and the optimism, and how I believe we can head towards that kind of hopeful future. And what I'm really trying to speak to is really just, so I guess that what I can't pull away from is this idea that, you know, like I'm going to sound like an older person here probably, but that adults on the internet have a responsibility to set an example for younger people on the internet. So I really think that there can be this, again, this just comes from my background and how I understand things. So I just think that there's just so much of what we were just talking about. Like, it looks like a giant turd. Like, I think that there's a way to provide helpful feedback in a manner that can be beneficial and use our words in a way that aren't intended to do harm to someone. So I'm not necessarily saying I believe that we need to change anyone, but I think that we can affect positive outcomes by setting a certain example, if that makes sense.
So this a thought came into my head with that. It's not against it or anything, but so using one of my videos as an example, I did a video about hauls. I tend to do them every month, but the last one I did very poorly. But I didn't promote it as being excessive. This time I promoted it as being small, the smallest haul ever done. As far as the way how the thumbnails, the title, and everything, it's the same. It's just the opposite of the message that I'm promoting immediately at face value. The only difference between this video and the other ones is just putting words in it, which is anyone out there, it actually shot up like retention, but like it did horrible as far as like immediately pushing out. And I changed nothing different from what I did last time as far as when I posted, all that kind of stuff. But the main difference is the context of what I'm promoting. I'm not promoting straight consumerism and buying like everything I can, like I normally do, like what's going to happen this next month, I promoted that I hardly bought a thing. I mean, I did, but I mean, it didn't do well. It did
I'm
not
looking
do well.
at it right now. Do you think it's because the word haul is illegible in your thumbnail?
I don't know. I took it out. No, I mean, like the thing is, like it could be that.
Like, what
But
is
no, I
this?
changed
don't
the
even know.
thumbnail recently, and I didn't change it back. So, like, you could see immediately when it first came out, it was legible, and I just took it out. So, like with my content, I'm playing with a lot of things. So, I'm just too lazy to go back and fix that to put it not blurry as it was when it first came out. But you can see how it performs immediately within the first 6 hours. And it just like it did not have the same traction as it did with my previous haul videos, and
Which
those were
was
used to be like very
haul, let's say.
I wasn't, so I was trying to like be subtle about it, like being all that, and it didn't perform. So which is very telling about like the whole overall community, as if like we should be like FOMO buying everything. And it's interesting to hear Thomas say something earlier in this episode and before the episode about being criticized for not buying anything. So like he's been criticized for like by promoting minimalism.
Really?
So yeah, so let me go ahead and kind of rephrase. So, yeah, just kind of take what you said, but kind of pull it back a little bit. There have been a couple of messages I have received in the past from individuals who have made comments about my content and about how they've told me things like I'm out of touch with the Lego community, that I'm just trying to, just share an uprooting perspective. And it really comes down to the fact that I was just sharing my own consumer experience and how it evolved over a year. That's all I was trying to share. And when it really comes down to it, what I have found to be valuable for what I have had to share, and Claire brought up, and she used the word safe space. I've never called myself a safe space, but I really just wanted to be a spot on the Lego Instagram community that wasn't focused on the hauls, because I really see that there are a lot of accounts that do that extremely well. And I noticed comments that were being made. Wow, I wish I had that much money. I don't have a Lego room that big. And I just saw these comments being made, and I said, I just kind of see that there's this little bit of, other perspective in the community. And I started to realize that I don't buy as much anymore, and I wasn't like sharing why, but I was like, maybe I can put myself in a position where I can share why I've made adjustments in my time. For a period of time, like I didn't have a backlog. And I talked about not having a backlog, just because I just shared that I didn't have a backlog. I built all my sets, and now I'm waiting for another round of sets to come out that I want to get. So the real focus of my page is more so on content creation, just trying to encourage others to put their stuff out there and to create. To maybe if you think that you don't have enough bricks, why don't you go ahead and like take some of your sets apart that you are all right with starting with. And people have asked me, how do you make that choice? I have this thing called the drop test. I don't actually drop the set, but I ask myself, if the set were to fall on the ground and smash and all the pieces were to go everywhere, would I be upset or relieved that it's off my shelf and I no longer have to worry about it, or now I have space for something else? And that's just a thought experiment that I have. How can I make more space for more sets? How do I make that decision? Or how do I decide how to get more bricks for mocks? A lot of the bricks that I have are actually from previous sets that I bought and I've taken apart and I've put into my drawers. So that's how I have parts to build things. And I do that because I enjoy the building process more than I enjoy the final product, if that makes sense.
Yes,
but that is me. Like, I really enjoy the building process. And I saw that, and that's a little bit of why I love Lego as a hobby that I can enjoy, because I it is a product that I can continue to enjoy over and over and over and over again by learning different techniques, by being part of a community that encourages creation. I don't even keep a lot of my mocks built. Like as soon as I complete a mock, I'm like, all right, cool. And I'll often take it apart like within a week because I know that I want to create something new. My longest sitting mock right now, I was on the other side of the room. It's my revisioned cantina and my castle that I took to Brick World Chicago, which is a medieval take on the Bespin Duel. But I plan to expand that by next June. So that is just my perspective and how I use the hobby. I also let my daughter play with all of my sets. I haven't pulled down the Barracuda Bay yet or the Destiny's Bounty. Those might be an exception. But
I want to get in the top.
Yeah. But I've let her play with the Daily Bugle, and like she's 2, and I've let her play with Ninjago City Gardens. I want her to grow up loving the hobby, knowing that I was always willing to have her as a part of it too.
Right. My kids play with the Disney castle.
I can't. So the castle, I lost I don't know where the little baby goat or baby lamb is anymore. I think Luna took it and it's gone. And I haven't even finished building the whole castle yet. It's gone. It's gone. I don't know where it is.
Hopefully you don't find it in a diaper.
Yeah. So again, there's also a lot more to the piece that you were talking about the criticism piece. I have received a lot of pushback. It's probably the best word to use. I have received pushback for my content.
For being like minimalistic.
Yeah, just for promoting a different perspective. Yeah.
See, that's crazy. I call myself the anti-fall. Like whenever a new wave comes out, I'm like, I'm not buying any of it.
Yeah, you two should like
champions. But I've never gotten anybody, like no one's ever told me anything.
And like I said though, like I said earlier though, is there are so many people out there, and there are accounts that I follow that I love. There are YouTube accounts that I follow and I love, and they do fantastic reviews of day one purchases. Like it's amazing to me that they have the budget to do it, and like I like celebrate with them that like cool, like yeah, like go out and like get all the new sets, like build them so I can decide if I want to get if I even want to get them. I want to see lots of perspectives on these sets, but I know that I'm not able to financially do that, nor do I have the space or the time to build all those things. We are all in different scenarios of our lives, I feel, and I think that that's wonderful and it's beautiful, and I think that's what makes the community so great, is that we can all approach this hobby so incredibly differently. And I really do love how accounts all do their own thing. And I just think that people should find value in what they're able to accomplish with the resources that they have, and not feel less because they can't buy more. That's really what I just try to share a whole lot.
No, that's some serious positivity that does need to be exponentially pushed out to a lot of people, because like we've seen it in a lot of places that, like, for example, the especially now that price increases, like you had a different like obviously you were pissed, but like you definitely shared out there that I guess I'll be building mocks more, and that was kind of a take that a lot of people started running with. Like, that's
what I said. Like, okay, you know I guess building mocks more.
so
use
being
what you have,
optimistic about it is a good thing. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And for anybody who would troll you for that mindset, it's just now you just got to up your armor a little bit to ignore it. Yeah, it's a lot of it has to come with
and that's where. Sorry, Shai. That's where I really just appreciate what Claire said earlier. Is that when it comes to critiques and trolls and criticism, it's not up to me to try to change that individual. It's honestly up to me to say, like, okay, how am I going to take this? How am I going to respond to this? am I going to let it just affect how I create? And there was a period when I did, and
you're human. It's allowed. You're allowed to be upset.
Yeah, and I was upset, and I took a lot of it to heart. But really, what I really do like, again, what Claire said was that as content creators, we are going to face that kind of criticism and backlash, and we do need to respond to it in a positive way. So I think that's really just important.
I mean, like the best way to respond to that is to not respond to it. Well, like a lot of our large content creator friends that like have been doing this for a long time, have the reach for it. Sorry, what is this?
It's real life.
FedEx.
As it happens.
Real life, so it'll be cool.
I'm like, what is this? I don't know what this is.
Damn.
Is this a Brikx design program? It might be because that's the only thing I'm missing. I was like,
Speaking of,
Sorry. What was I saying? I forgot. I got interrupted by this FedEx package.
No, it's fine.
Oh yeah. So a lot of our large content creator friends, what they would say is just stay out of the comments.
Yeah,
That's like the best thing you can do, because if you don't let it affect you, it's not going to affect you. Although yes, it does affect you. For me specifically, there are specific triggers that will probably get me antsy into the comments. But what I've been doing, I've been kind of getting cheeky, I guess, with commenters that kind of bug me a little bit. But I find I'm turning something negative into fun at that point because I'm trolling back. But like, it's best to, you're in like going full circle with the Lego designers. Welcome to social media life. So you have to be able to take it or ignore it. I mean, we all understand that there are variables that you don't see, like in content creation. There are variables that a lot of people don't see behind the screen that impact the creation that you make via video, mocks,
Definitely.
designs on Lego. And it's going to go unappreciated, even if you were to say the real thing, what actually brought you to your end product. Like, ultimately, they're not going to care. And
social media age.
And we don't, as content creators, sometimes we don't, like, we kind of feed on that a little bit because that's what clickbait is. And that's, that's how you gain views, is for being negative sometimes. So like, it also doesn't help that we don't help, but it's kind of like a very slippery slope. The best thing you can do is just don't respond with negativity, and just know that, like, just like in the real world, like if someone were to talk trash to you in real life, you could either respond negatively, which could be very, very bad for both parties, or you simply ignore it and walk away. No harm, no foul. You know what I mean? So same context in a more, well, this time with the screen and keyboard in front of people, but that's, that barrier of, oh crap, you can really hurt me, is not there behind someone that's in their basement just deciding to troll on everybody,
But I do see like a point, because like as a creator, you are kind of looking for like constructive criticism. So so those troll comments do kind of suck. You're like, man, does it actually suck? Like, should I fix? Because you're inside, you're like thinking, like, I was kind of self-conscious about that one part. I did want to change it, and now someone's trolling you on it, and you're like, damn, did I really mess
sometimes
up?
it's just taken out of context, because you can't convey emotion in
that
text.
too.
So they could be legitimately giving you proper criticism. They're just not articulate enough to be able to write it properly. You know what I mean? So they just write, especially if they're from other countries. So where they use Google Translate. So I noticed that. I'm like, oh, you're not from here, and this is obviously Google Translate. So you're saying some things on here that I should be offended to. But you know what I mean? But you yourself have to take yourself out of your own box to see it from their perspective, which can be hard sometimes because you're the one taking the criticism, and now you're forced to be open to the criticism in a way that you shouldn't have been in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Damn.
I'm just surprised that there was no screaming at that one point.
Right. The kids were even listening. They're like, "Damn, Dad, that's real."
I don't know. It's very interesting to see that, and to have Claire to be an actual designer who is in that world. Yeah, it makes sense for her to keep her guard up very heavily, and it shows very, very clearly. So, and it's working, right? Is it? I hope so.
What? I mean, I don't have a big social media channel, so it like doesn't, I haven't had to deal with I've had some stupid comments, but they were like mostly, I just it's fine now, but put me to the test, I guess. And 100,000 subscribers.
No, but you actually you create work and you are criticized, and you set up yourself like this is a world where we get criticized for designing, I don't know, whatever you do.
Oh, I get sued.
Real life.
I don't get
Yes.
criticized.
That's
I
a
could
next
put it-
level criticism.
So I could go to jail. Yeah, that there's a big difference. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard because it's like you want people to like be aware and be empathetic to other people and still be able to express their emotions and not like be like shut it down. But also like you could waste so much time in your life being upset about so many different things and stressing about so many different things, and like you expend so much energy doing that, and it's really comes back to your metaphor, but what you were actually doing is you were compulsively going to the pab wall to go look for pieces, and a lot of consumers do the same thing. They compulsively look at Facebook Marketplace or eBay, refresh and whatever fixation people get, it kind of like turns into that, and you can waste so much time doing that. You can waste so much time being stressed out. It's just like you constantly have to keep yourself in check, and it's part of being an adult and part of being a human, and you can only have like empathy for other people, and also like it's important to give people like a little bit of space so that like if they get upset about a Lego set, or if a big content creator, if their role, if their entire structure of their channel or of their Instagram or whatever it is to be hypercritical, that space has to exist. There's nothing wrong with that space. Just like your account or my account is not for everybody, it's the same thing for that. And so it's like we can't be hypocritical with that stuff as well. What we can do is just like cut out what we don't want to see, and that's it.
That's the best defense for a lot of that.
Yeah, no, like I agree.
No, there's just something about like you can, people think that they're able to like take everything or whatever, but you're not. There's only like a finite amount of the intake that you can have, so you quite literally have to like just like put on some kind of blinder, whatever it is. If it's like, through like a hidden side poly bag, or if it's through
nice
like
flex.
some other like rose colored glasses, whatever it is, you got to figure it out for whatever works for you. And I think I like that you have your kind of like silo of the internet, and it needs to exist, and there should be more accounts, and there are more accounts. It's really funny. It's like, I don't think people realize like just because like Tiago, for example, one of the biggest Lego content creators out there, an ex-Lego designer, he like, I posted like a photo of like my shelves, and he was like, too much. He's a minimalist. He has really like, he has a lot of white in his shots, and he doesn't do haul videos, and there's just like something like tasteful about it. But like, there's other people out there, I think, and they may not be like as saying it as loudly, but there's a lot of people in support of that thought process.
No, yeah, and I think that's great. And I one thing I just want to kind of say this, just to kind of wrap up my thoughts about this, is you've really helped me see the importance of other spaces needing to exist for those different perspectives to have space, so that we can all consume content in a way that gives us joy. Because sometimes I think that's like important. So I do really appreciate that.
Totally. Like, I'm really not like trying to change your mind here as well. Like, that would be also hypocritical of me. But like, what made me kind of like come to terms with it, I was like, I don't understand. It's so weird. People like, why would anyone come just to get angry? And then I'm like, okay, wait a second. Like, there's people who really like metal music, and like, I don't get it. And like, the whole point of that is to like scream, or like, I don't really like country music that much. And it's like, music is such a there's like an emotional reaction to that music. And it's like, you get that they're like, okay, some people are that I like, and then there's Insane Clown Posse, which is its own monster. But you know what I mean? There's like so many different, ways of like expressing yourself musically at the same time. And it's kind of the same thing with content. But the problem is it's like it blends together a lot more, because like YouTube and like Instagram hasn't figured out how to like target, like content towards individuals. Get out of here. Get out of here. But do you know what I mean? Like it just like, I think the way that we live our lives and the structures that we have, we kind of intentionally, like, you go to college, or, you grow up in the church or whatever it is, and you're like, your structure is surrounded by the silo that you choose for yourself, right? But the thing is, the internet's like not that. It's like this weird wobbly mess of garbage, and it's like we're still trying to like find our way through it. So your content is put in front of someone who should not be seeing it, and same with mine, and then stuff that's put in front of us that we don't want to see because there's something clickbait about it. There's like some search term that we accidentally put in. There's like just something that's still getting figured out, and so I think we're still kind of wading those waters a little bit.
Yeah. No, and like I think that's great. And what you just said about that, like our pages, they end up to people who wouldn't want to see our content, but they also end up being seen by people, hopefully largely by those who do want to see our content. And I know that there are so many amazing creative people out there who are so afraid to put out the most basic creation that they have because of what they see on the internet, and it breaks my heart. There are like a few accounts who will actually send me their stuff in a message because they're too afraid to post it, because they're afraid of just getting criticized for it. So and again, I understand that, but I think it's a perspective that comes from what they have seen other content creators go through. And I just think that that is why, again, you haven't changed my mind, but you really help me think in terms of the importance of multiple spaces. And you've actually helped me see how valuable place that I can have in the Instagram space, because people do want to create, and I'm just hoping, even if it's just one individual ever that creates because they see the post that I make, that's quite honestly enough for me. Because ultimately, I want to see more and more people put their stuff out there. So yeah, that's why I do it.
Yeah, no.
Keep on.
Yeah, keep up the work. Keep up your Monday show, which you didn't plug in. You probably should.
Yes, so I do have a show on Mondays on Instagram. I actually call it Minimal Mondays. It started off a way for people to show their Lego organization or to talk about it, but it has really just turned into an opportunity to bring on content creators of all sorts, set builders, mock builders alike. Everyone's welcome on the show, and sometimes there are multiple who come on, and we just talk about Lego, and we talk about other things too, like things just randomly come up, just like we did here. We spend most of our time, I feel, talking about content creation and how to deal with criticism, which I think is important, and just how to just appropriately just approach feedback when we receive it. So that's great.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your perspective, and again, it's great having other creators from other platforms to come on this side, and it's great to hear their perspective as well. But before we roll that music, does anyone have anything else to say before we destroy the episode? No? Well, with that being said, thank you, Thomas, again. Roll that music. Good night, everybody. Peace.
Or good morning. Or good afternoon.
Or morning. Yeah, whatever. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said good night. I'm exhausted. I'm seriously stressed out.
It's gonna be extra work at the end.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, thanks, guys. That was good.